Hey everybody, ABC 10 meteorologist Brendan Minchef here with a look at Hurricane Hilary. Yes, now Hurricane Hilary off the coast of Mexico. Here's what it looks like as of about noon Pacific time on Thursday. One of the things that immediately jumps out at this image, if you're thinking about what a classic tropical cyclone looks like, is the lack of an eye until we get right until about 12 o'clock. So over the last 6 hours or so, it looks like Hilary kind of shed its eye a little bit. And this is what happens when hurricanes start to strengthen rapidly. And this is something that we're definitely going to be watching. Already a Category 2, and it is expected to make it, according to the latest National Hurricane Center cone, all the way to major hurricane status, which is Category 3 or above, and in Hilary's case, towards about a Category 4. So here is the storm over the last 6 hours. Again, you can see there was no eye. It really had one, and then it shed it. And now it's redeveloping a new one, and this is the sign of a hurricane that is undergoing what we call rapid intensification. So here's another look at it. A little easier to see the individual bands in the storm itself here. So this is as of 12 p.m. Pacific time off the coast of Mexico, bringing some rain and wind, but really the story is where it is headed. You can see it's going to travel up the coast of Mexico, maybe interact with Baja a little bit, and then start to make its way inland into California. Now, Southern California is likely at this point in time, I'm going to say this a lot, but I'm going to say it for the first time right now. Things are likely to change, and things will change as we work through the weekend and we get closer to Hilary actually making landfall in or around the state of California. But as things stand right now, here's what the cone looks like. You can see we're still expecting major hurricane status, a Category 4 storm by Friday morning. So just within the next 24 hours or less, we already expect the storm to be at Category 4, going to maintain its strength through Saturday morning. Then between Saturday and Sunday morning, it is expected to start to weaken. And certainly by the time we get Sunday into Monday and it approaches the California coast, that's when we really expect to see a lot of that weakening. But as things stand, you can see San Diego, parts of Southern California, the deserts of Southern California in the cone. Sacramento, not quite in the cone, but certainly parts of eastern Sacramento County and into the Sierra are in that cone of concern. Now, up here, we're not talking major wind impacts. We're not talking significant rain impacts necessarily, but certainly, is there a chance of rain? Yes. Is there a chance for some stronger winds with this? Yes, with these thunderstorms that are forecast or could move through. There's still a lot of coulds here as we break down the forecast. Important to say, this does not happen very often that we get a storm that holds together and makes its way towards the state of California. So it's important to say there's a lot of coulds with this forecast still. It is still several days away. This is just how things stand right now. Here's the spaghetti models. And so if you're not familiar with these, each individual line is an individual model run. We usually talk about the GFS, the American model, the Euro, the European model. Both of those are there. You just saw them update with the latest run. I'm going to say this, seeing this for the first time with that new run, there's a little more consensus in it. And one of the things I noticed, this red one here, this is the AVNO, that's the GFS model. This is the American model for hurricanes. I noticed that this has actually brought it back west a little bit compared to where it was with the previous run. This is going to happen. We talked about a minute ago just how the storm is undergoing this rapid intensification, how it's building a new eye wall. What happens is as these storms build an eye wall, it starts to lack that center of rotation just a little bit, and it makes it difficult for the weather models to pick up on. As it starts to reform, as things start to organize with the storm a little bit, the models pick up on that. They pick up that, hey, this is where the center of the storm is. This is where we're focusing our attention. And so when it starts those model runs, when it has that eye wall, when it's undergone that intensification, that's when we start to see more consensus in the models. And that was pretty cool that you actually got to see that update with me right now just for the first time. But notice these spaghetti models are bringing it in towards the state of California. And again, there is a westward shift. As of the latest run that we just saw, there was a westward shift there. That's important to note because it does mean we will see some more, if it sticks to that westward shift, we would likely see more wind and rain impacts down near Southern California. Now, I want to show you sea surface temperatures. Normally we talk about this with El Nino and we look at anomalies. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the actual temperature of the surface of the ocean. And really, for hurricanes to form and strengthen, you want it to be 80 degrees or warmer. Well, right now, you see where Hilary is at, and the storm is sitting in 86 degree Fahrenheit water right now. That is more than enough hurricane fuel for this storm to rapidly strengthen. You also notice it is off the coast of Mexico. It's not near the coast, it's off the coast. That gives it plenty of room to just really absorb all of that very warm water as it stays there. But as we saw, that track is going to bring it up off the coast of Baja and in towards Southern California by the start of next work week. But the water off the coast of northern Baja and Southern California is only about 70 degrees. That is not enough to sustain a hurricane, and that's why we typically don't see hurricanes make it all the way up here. It's certainly not held together like that. We get remnants, but we don't usually get them held together near tropical storm strength. Well, as soon as Hilary moves into this colder water, it's going to start to weaken very, very quickly, and that's what we saw in that cone, right? It's going to make it up towards the 4, major hurricane status, going to cross over into that cooler water, and it's going to start to dissipate very quickly. Let's talk some headlines. Right now, as we talked about, undergoing that intensification. Major hurricane status is likely with the storm. For California, impacts, still some uncertainty, but it does look like Southern California is going to see likely some tropical storm impacts here in terms of wind and some rain as well. Northern California, there's certainly a chance of rain depending on the track. If it's more westerly, we have a better chance of seeing some rain. If it's more easterly, we're going to have less of a chance of seeing some rain, but nonetheless, that chance right now is there. I give it about a 20 to 30% chance that we actually have some rain in and around Sacramento, at least Monday and or Tuesday of next week. Certainly, that humidity is going to be increased. This is a tropical system, right? You saw that water there, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Even as this storm is rapidly dissipating and coming to an end as it moves over Northern California, there is going to be humidity associated with this storm. We thought this week was humid. Just wait until we get to Monday, Tuesday. I would expect things to be much more humid by then. The uncertainty, though, it is days away. There is so much time for things to change. Track can go east. It can go back west. It can go back east again. And that is all going to shift how much rain we're talking about for Southern California, for Northern California. It's going to change how much wind we're talking about, certainly for Southern California. If it goes in more easterly, less wind impacts for places like San Diego, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara. If it goes more westerly, more wind impacts for San Diego, LA, Santa Barbara, and certainly for our mountain ranges down there. But speaking of mountains, hurricanes hate mountains. They do not do well with mountains. And it's really important to note, look at the terrain of Baja all the way up into the United States, into Southern California. And of course, we know about the Sierra. We sit in a valley, of course. Mountains are not good for hurricanes. What happens is it disrupts that wind flow, and it can actually weaken them. It can steer them in odd directions. And so if Hurricane Hilary starts to approach Baja a little closer than maybe expected, it could actually start to shear the storm and weaken it, maybe steering it in an odd direction, bringing it inland sooner, maybe kicking it out to the ocean a little more. That's just something we got to watch. But we see this a lot in the Atlantic, right? We see this when a hurricane approaches Cuba, certainly western Cuba. The mountains of Cuba really weaken these storms very quickly. Kind of helps protect Florida in that way. We see this with Puerto Rico as well, very mountainous, right? A storm moves over Puerto Rico, and it really just loses a lot of its energy. Hurricane Maria a few years ago comes to mind when we talk about how strong a storm can be when it approaches a mountain range and then how quickly it can weaken after it hits a mountain range. So the mountains all the way from Baja into Southern California are going to play a huge role in terms of what this storm does, how strong it is. If it's more westerly, if it's more offshore, it's going to have less of that frictional force generated by that storm brushing up against the mountains. If it's more westerly, less force, stronger potential tropical storm as it approaches Southern California and in towards Northern California. If it's more easterly and it rides the mountains all the way up, that's just going to destroy that storm. It will likely not even be tropical storm status by the time it gets to Southern California at that point, if it rides the mountains of Baja all the way up. If it's somewhere in the middle, maybe just off the coast, we're likely still talking tropical storm strength and some rain impacts and wind for Southern California. There's so much to this puzzle right now, this forecast. There's a lot here. It's important to stay tuned through the weekend. We're going to do these digital updates every single day. I'll see you every single day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with these updates. And of course, you can watch it on the ABC 10 Plus app as well. Shout out if you are watching on ABC 10 Plus. As we look at Futurecast, again, there is time for this to change, but here's where the storm is headed as things stand. Low pressure off the coast of California. High pressure, strong high pressure, by the way, over the middle part of the United States. You can see the wind arrows. Where is it going? Right over California. That is where that storm is right now forecast to move. So here is what Sunday at about 8:30 in the morning looks like. Here's Hurricane Hilary off the coast of Baja. And again, this is all mountains right here, right? If you've been there, you know it. It's all mountains. And so if it rides the mountain range, it'll be a little weaker. If it stays out to shore, as we talked about, a little stronger. But notice we start to get some of that tropical moisture moving up across even our mountains into California, even into the Sierra a little bit, potentially, for Sunday morning, but the focus of the storm still south off the coast of Baja. Now, Monday morning, 24 hours later, that low pressure system is where that storm is headed. It's going to get wrapped in with that low off the coast, and that's going to help to spin up some rain. The high pressure is a very strong one. It is not moving. According to the latest models, it is going to stay there, which pretty much puts northern Mexico, inland northern Mexico, Arizona, and Utah kind of out of play for the storm as things stand right now. If that high doesn't move, it's not going to approach any of these states. They'll maybe get a little rain, but the focus is going to be more westerly. So tropical storm strength as it stands now for Monday morning, and you can see all the rain. This is the American model, the GFS. So you can see all the rain that is on the model right now as it approaches Southern California. It even holds together with some of that rain as it scoots through Northern California. Again, talked about that, right? Maybe 20, maybe 30% chance of rain right now for parts of the valley. Certainly a little better for the Sierra because it helps to lift that moisture up. Regardless of rain, you can see why it's going to be humid because we have all that tropical moisture in and around our region. But notice that high pressure still sits right there. So that's why that storm is headed where it's headed. That's where things stand right now as of Thursday, late morning, early afternoon. Download the ABC 10 Plus app. It is free, live, local, always on. You can get it on your Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV. We got a weather playlist there. We got in-depth forecasts, weather specials like mega flood, like water wasted, and of course, the latest on Hurricane Hilary as it likely approaches California as we go through the weekend. We're going to track this very, very closely. We'll keep an eye on things as it changes. Of course, you can follow all of us on social media as well. All the meteorologists here. We're going to keep you informed as things change as we go through the weekend. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.